What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing today? It is I, Rob from Sage Tower Games, and Playtest released an article this week talking about the aftermath of the Secrets of Magic playtest, kind of their thoughts on the feedback that they received. For those of you that are unaware, the two classes that they were playtesting were the Magus and the Summoner. I made two videos kind of talking about those classes and what was in the playtest. You can find them somewhere on the screen. I will post little links to those two videos. With that, let us hop in and see what they thought about those classes and see how it matches up with what we came up with. Okay, Magus. Much of the feedback on the Magus indicated that it felt too restrictive and too random. That makes sense. The class could be quite powerful, but required really specific play patterns and choices to get there. We don't want a class that can do a huge Nova attack if you stack your true strikes correctly, but isn't satisfied doing much else, which we did talk about in that video about how it felt like you were kind of doing the same thing over and over, spamming that striking spell. So they want to make it further development by adding more varied strategies, making the action economy less difficult to deal with, and giving more clear paths. Okay. Striking spell. So for those of you that don't remember, this is basically spell strike from 1E, kind of the ability to deliver a spell through an attack. It was rated as being interesting but not powerful enough. It was also rated as difficult to understand. Players know that it could be frustrating to spend your whole turn casting a striking spell that emits with a strike. I know that feeling from my Kingmaker days. Even having more chances at it didn't take out the sting of needing to wait for another turn to try it again. Yeah. So what they mean is, you pretty much spend your entire turn to do one attack with the spell. If you miss, your entire turn's wasted. And then you can, it's still there, so you can like hit it next turn with somebody. But at that point, you've spent a turn and a half to do one attack and like some catch-up damage. So I can see what they mean in terms of that. Making changes to striking spell won't be straightforward. I can believe that. Was to make it highly flexible to allow for use of a wide variety of spells, which they did do. It's not specific to touch spells, they can do all sorts of spells. And that you use your thought spell with other abilities. So you can use, okay, that's like floor, yeah, it makes sense. But basically means to make the class feel lackluster. We know for sure that we want to restructure the action to make it clearer. Yeah, they don't want you to rely on a crit, that makes sense. So the crits are pretty common. Especially if you have true strike to give you that advantage. For actual effects of the ability, a lot of options are on the table, such as having a stored spell with a spell attack roll, not increase your multiple attack penalty. So okay. Or going a bit farther and using the same roll for your strike and spell. That is a good point, because it is a bit confusing that when you hit with the strike and the spell, you have to roll to hit with the actual weapon, and then you need to roll to hit with the actual spell, which I feel like is kind of pointless. Or having some type of buff you gain while you have the stored spell. Okay, so like benefits to keeping the spell stored, basically. Some changes might require it to be no longer at will. Yeah, and this is exactly the point. If you lower its frequency, then you have to give the Magus something else. Because that was really all the Magus had, was striking spell. So, if you make it too strong that you have to restrict it, then you got to give them some other tools. Here we go, spells. For those of you that don't remember, you had, as it says, 4 spell slots maximum, no matter what level you are. Players were divided. 40% felt happy, and a wide variety of options, but that 40% is not good. 4 slots didn't allow for many interesting or fun utility spells. The martial caster feat, I did say, was an important feat. It gave you some more spells to help you out. So they definitely should give some additional bonuses to that. I did say, like, you basically... You could, if you had 4 spells, you take maybe 1 or 2 might be for like your big hits, and then the other 2 might be like utility spells, and that was it. Like, you were really restricted there. If they can do something with that, or give like a higher level martial casting that gives you like higher level spells as well, but then the problem with that is everyone's going to take that. So I'm also going to also dump this in a bit more zoomed in for you guys. Okay. Magus synthesis. Much of the discussion about the Magus suggests slide casting felt like a mandatory pick. I agree. The shooting star one did not make any sense. I mean, if like I said, they said shooting star had the best numbers on the fun scale. I agree. Shooting star felt fun, but it didn't feel like it was gonna be better. And the other one was just like this. Let's not talk about that one. That one didn't really make much sense. That makes sense. With the intention to make the action economy more player friendly, we also want to make the synthesis options more focused on certain play styles. Okay. Yeah, there was a lot of this point. Certain play styles rather than one appearing like a mandatory choice for action economy purposes. You really had to like pick specific. Yeah, like depending on what you want to do, you had to pick that. There wasn't much flexibility. And there'll be more coming. That's always good. We intend to give more of a story hook to synthesis, since they're currently a bit dry compared to similar options in other classes. Yeah, I would say compared to some of the other classes that have like 7, 8 different ones already out, and they have like progressions and like the Oracle, for instance, the whole revelation and curse interactions. That's really cool. That's a cool effect. Like, you know, for an Oracle, as you use your spells, your curse gets stronger. That's a nice dynamic that makes it a bit more interesting, a bit more flavor to it. These will also come with some extra benefits that give you a bit of a leg up. Just adding more spells to your spellbook or influencing what you get. Okay, makes sense. Also plan to change the name. Not just to avoid confusion, but just because I think the name is stupid. Finally, we heard you when you said Razor Tome doesn't work with the synthesis, and we'll be fixing that. Yes. Yes. So Razor Tome is really funny, and so basically what it is you just kind of, as a reaction, can like raise a book as a shield kind of and like use it, and you can like gain benefits to Nas rolls. But if your action economy is being used by striking spell non-stop, you're never going to use Razor Tome. This part's straightforward. Magus has a slower spell attack roll and BC progression than the champion or the monk can get with their focus spells. That's just a straight up fix. There's nothing you can say about that. That's just true. They should fix that. I mean, you are still a magic caster. Battle spells. The Magus potency spell wasn't that popular. People have been asking for a special attack spell as a focus spell instead, particularly a one action spell. We had avoided that for 2 reasons. First, if the spell is strong, fights can end up really repetitive. Eldritch Blast. And second, we had intended for cantrip choice and there used to be an important part. So this part is correct. Well, this part's kind of weird. So it did feel like that they were designing it to to where your cantrips would be a much more important part to the class. Because as a cantrip, you would pump your cantrips into your striking spells. And then, but is it worth it? Like, even buffed up 2d4, 3d4 plus 1 attack roll versus another class that can just like do 2 or 3 attacks, so ranger that can do 17. Is it worth it? The battle spell will be changing from Magus potency, but the specifics aren't settled yet. It might be an attack spell with a striking spell benefit. Might be based on the synthesis. That's cool. All right. So what do we get from this? We got, they're definitely gonna update striking spell. Make it cleaner. They are definitely going to probably give more martial casting feats. Now the question I have with this is, do they do other things to the class, like give more other tools, make the synthesis have more features and flavors to them, that makes it so that you don't have to take the martial caster feat all the time? Like, is it a must-have feat that you just always pick up? That's the question. With that, the summoner. Okay. Second highest overall approval rate after the swashbuckler. I can see that. People, I think, the summoner looked like a really good class. It looked, compared to the Magus, this looked a lot better. Main takeaways. We're strongly leaning towards changing act together to a variable action activity, allowing either the summoner or Eidolon to use a 1, 2, or 3 action activity, and the other to use a single action. Okay. So you can... Okay, so I think now it's just like you can both take 1 action, but instead you can kind of make it a bit... That would be helpful. The summoner will be getting proficiency increases to spell attack rolls and spell DC sooner, just like the Magus. Makes sense. They're a spellcaster. We also want to allow more customization of your Eidolon at first level without loading up too many choices to make. So we're leaning towards more evolutions being available at first level and giving you a free evolution to choose from at first level. Okay. Yeah, I believe, if I recall from the playtest, the summon, like at the beginning, the summoner just had one. It was just one build for whatever Eidolon you picked, and it took a while for it to like get its customization evolutions. We're also looking into a few other avenues to potentially increase versatility. Upper limit, okay, makes sense. We plan to increase from the 4 types to between 8 and 10 types. That's a lot of types. Expect them to be chosen from among the ranks mentioned, but not presented in the playtest, such as Fey and Demon Eidolons. That could be cool. They have like a Fey Eidolon, a Demon Eidolon. What else? A proper undead Eidolon, maybe. I don't know if they're gonna keep it like a Velstrak Chiton type Eidolon, like the old school summoners. Spellcasting. One issue that had a lot of discussion was how to handle spellcasting, whether to keep it the same, remove spell slots for other options, like Eidolon abilities or focus spells, increase spell slots, and weaken the Eidolon. Based on the plotted responses in favor of keeping the spellcasting the way it currently works. Okay, so what they're saying here is, because it's a different balance you got to figure out. If you make a summoner have too many spells, then they're a strong spellcaster and they have this massive creature that can beat the shit out of everything. So do you make the spells weaker and make the Eidolon stronger, or do you make the spells stronger and the Eidolon's weaker. I can see it. I mean, I think that it may be less of an issue, especially if the summoner isn't having that issue with the Magus in terms of action economy, where they have to like use their whole turn from one thing. They can use a lot of the act together stuff and kind of the bond to split their turn between them and the Eidolon. Synthesis. There's a lot of feedback on the synthesis feat that allowed you to merge with your Eidolon. It was popular, but many folks said that it being an option you choose each time you manifest, rather than mandatory, didn't fulfill the fantasy that the ability to use both options caused it to have quite a few restrictions it might need otherwise. Okay. Oh. So I didn't even know this. I didn't even catch that when I did my review. So if you picked synthesis, you couldn't. Oh, that's weird. You couldn't actually summon your Eidolon and then later on merge together. You had to actually summon it and kind of become one with it. There was no optional feat, I think. Rather than mandatory, I have to check that. I'm not positive on that. And then make the synthesis class archetype. Yeah, I thought it was meant to be optional. But make it an archetype that like focuses on like kind of fusing with it would be really cool. So, alright. So I think the summoner has a lot less to deal with. I mean, you could just see like the paragraphs for Magus compared to the summoner, which makes sense. The summoner felt like it played a lot better. The Eidolons, except for the divine one, I mean, were pretty good. I think that the divine Eidolon could use some work. Angelic, I think it's called. Spellcasting makes sense, and that makes sense. So we have this new thing in the blog called Incarnate Spell Preview. So let's finish with a new type of mega summoning, where you summon a powerful thematic creature that sticks around briefly and has a big impact. So this sounds like to me kind of almost like something like a Guardian Force or an Eon in Final Fantasy almost. A spell with the Incarnate trait operates as follows. Rather than conjuring a minion with a summon trait, you summon it. It takes an arrive action. At the end of your next turn, it can either step, stride, or take the action for another movement type it has, and then it leaves. So it comes in, arrives, does something special. It can then move, and then it leaves and does its leave action. An incarnate spell directs its effects away from you and your allies as much as possible. It's not quite a creature. It can't be taking any other actions, can't be targeted or harmed by strike spells. Unless I could dispel magic. It has the size to determine its placement, but does not block movement. Alright. Let's see what we got. Summon the Vengeful Dead. It's a level 7 spell. 3 actions. To the end of your next turn, you channel the forces of undeath to briefly call forth an amalgam of the Vengeful Dead slain by your enemies and allies alike. This amalgam manifests as a large tornado of insubstantial howling faces. It occupies the space of a huge creature and has a speed of 60 feet, so that's pretty fast. Arrive. All enemy creatures within a 60-foot emanation must attempt fortitude saves. Unaffected, drain 1, drain 2, drain 3. That's okay. So it comes out, boom, there's a drain effect on it. Any creatures within 60 feet of it. then it departs. All your enemies within 100-foot emanation must attempt will saves. Unaffected Frightened 2, Frightened 3, Frightened 3, and Fleeing. Okay. So basically, the way that works is it arrives, it lets out this effect that hits all enemies within 60 feet. Next turn, it gets a free move, and then it leaves and does its depart effect where it kind of lets out one more scream to frighten people. My guess, based on this being in here, I'm not sure if this is specifically for a summoner. Well, it can't be because there's no summoner spell list. So either it's a spell that they allow, that they make new spells, or it's a summoner ability. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know how much use it will get, only because if it is a level 7 spell, it's not like terribly like it doesn't do much that. I mean, drain, that's not bad. I think it works really well in terms of like for like if there's a lot of enemies, it's still like one shot like hit every enemy on the field basically. That's pretty cool. So it's pretty much like a massive AoE. At least this one is. Others might be more focused. Nice flavor. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be, at least depending on what the other ones do, but it could be a nice little like mega ability to unlock. So, in conclusion, what do we think about the Aftermath? I think they made a lot of good points. The Magus definitely needed a lot of work. The Magus was struggling. It needed help. They seem to be going in the right direction, making it more interesting, reworking some of the features. Both big things. The Summoner definitely needed less work. I'm hoping that the Magus can make it through all this. I think that depending on how they fix it, it could be a fun class to play, but as it is right now, Summoner still in my book is better than the Magus. So, thank you guys for watching, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe this video, follow the YouTube, and check me out here on YouTube, or Twitch, or Facebook, Sage Tower Games. Thank you.